Hello and welcome to this demo video. Before we get started, I'd just like to explain to you a few things which will relate to all of the basic range spreadsheets. Number one, there is a key on the intro and setup tab of all of the spreadsheets showing what the different color headers mean. The blue headers mean that the cell's formulated, so it's locked and you can't change it. The yellow headers are where you can input data, and occasionally there might be some gray headers, which is just a different kind of data input, but we'll include instructions as and when that happens. The other thing that you can be aware of is there are ways in which you can damage the spreadsheet. So please do take a look at the link where you see this image, which will take you to a web page to show you how to better preserve your spreadsheet. Please feel free to keep a blank version of the spreadsheet somewhere, so that if you do mess up a spreadsheet that you're using, you can in fact just open a new one, a blank one. And some of the spreadsheets only last for a year, and then you've got a blank one to start the following year. So do keep a blank copy as a backup somewhere. And lastly, wherever you see this image, you can click on it. It'll take you back to the store where you purchased this product to see if you've got anything, any more products. One last thing, to see a demo video, you can click on this on a link that looks like this in order to go to the demo video, but that'll take you to the most recent demo. If in fact we've done upgrades and you're using an older version and you'd like to see the demo relating to your version, then do click on the watch on YouTube link, which will take you to that specific video on YouTube. So I think that's all you need to know. So without further ado, let's move on to this demo video. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the demo video for the website traffic behavior report. Now this is a remake of one that used to be called a website visited sections report. It's essentially the same thing, but I've done it slightly differently so that you don't have to keep re-entering information. The purpose behind the spreadsheet is to help those of us who have websites where you've got quite a few pages and you want to kind of amalgamate those pages into some kind of report so you can see what aspect of your website is potentially working better than other aspects. So for example, if you've got 50 blog posts and you've got 4 pages which are about you or the staff or whoever's working for the company, and then you've got, say, 5 different services, and each of those have 3 or 4 pages, how do you know where people are visiting? Now in Google, you can go into Google Analytics and do a report by page so that you know who's visiting which pages. But what it doesn't necessarily do that well is assign pages together so that you can see, this many people are coming for that purpose and so many people are coming for that purpose, whether it's to read a blog or to watch a video or whatever else it might be. So what the spreadsheet allows you to do is to categorize your pages. So I've left space for up to 15 categories. You can put in your own categories. These are some of the ones I've done. And then put your website link in here. So don't do any duplicates, but list up to 15 categories so that what you will then do is go through all of your pages and assign each one to a category. And then the report is based on these categories rather than individual pages. So I hope that makes sense to you. So once you've filled in the categories and your website, this link doesn't go anywhere. It's just for the report. Then what you can do is you can click over to the next tab, which is the raw data tab. And now we have to get the Google Analytics data. So I'll show you how to do that. You follow it here: behavior, site content, all pages. So we go to Google Analytics, we go to behavior, site content, all pages. That will then load. Now we need to set the date range. Let's just go back to the spreadsheet that we were using. Whoops, that's not the right one. Set the date period and then apply, and then set the data to 500 rows. So in this case, what I want to do is I actually want to go back quite far. So I want to go back to January 2020. So we start in January 2020 and we end at the end of August 2021. And then I can go apply, and now it'll reload, and you'll see that this graph that will show a lot more in that graph than it did before. So you should be able to see more going on there. And then once you're done, one last thing to do is just come down here, and where it says show rows 10, change it to 5,000, and just double check that if we go down to the bottom again,
that I've got one of 1,223. So I don't have as many as 5,000 rows, because if you've got 5,000, it's not going to work. So just double check how many you've got there. In fact, in the spreadsheet, I have left 2,500 rows. So just double check that you don't have more than 2,500. Otherwise, just shorten the period and you'll be able to get enough data. So once you've got that, you can then go to export and make sure you click on Excel, and that will then download that data, open it up. Now, this is something that people often forget to do. Once you double click on it to open it up, make sure you actually click enable editing, because otherwise, if you copy this data, it's on the right format. So if you go enable editing, data set 1, that's what you want. So we want to get the headers, shift, control, and down. We don't, that's the automated graph, shift, control, down. We don't want to get the totals, so that's fine. Right click, copy, come back to your spreadsheet, and then paste values in the top. So the gray one, the gray rows, we want the headers. If you click right click, paste values, we've got the headers in the gray row. That's correct. Now all of a sudden that red's disappeared, because what it's done now is it knows where to find the page is the page. It knows where to find page views, unique views, average views, because we've told it which header to use. If you put this data in, I'm going to take one out here for a second. If the percentage exit, for example, disappears, then this will turn red because it can't find that header. So then you just select the new header that represents the percentage exit. Because this is in case Google changes the headers, you can come and select which one you want, so it knows which data to look at. Or if it adds a row, if it adds a column in, then it will ignore the new columns. It'll look for those particular headers. So you're just telling it what it's called. So I'll leave these in at the beginning because that's what they are called. But if any of these turn red, that means Google have changed something. So just go in and change and specify which header you wanted, which column you wanted to look up, which header you wanted to reference in order to pull up the respective data. Users page views, you can select whether you want to use page views or unique page views as your page views. I've gone for unique page views. And then underneath here is a point scoring system. Now, the point scoring system is quite simple. I wanted to rank these categories that you've created by the number of points. So what I've done, instead of just going rank by page views or time or whatever it is, I've said 1 point per 10 views, 1 point per 10 minutes. That's the time it's spent on each of those categories, and 1 point per 1 entrance. So how many entrances? So you can adjust these. You can give 1 point for 100 views. You can give 1 point for 1 view. You can even go the other way and give 10 points for 1 view. It's all up to you. You can adjust those to give them the importance of these points that it's earning in order to rank the categories. You don't have to put these in. If you leave them all blank, it'll just put them in the order that they were listed. But you can do that just to kind of adjust that league table, as it were, so you can see what you want to see. You can see it ranked the way you want to. And then last but not least, it just says sort of order if level on points. So much like the football or rugby or whatever, if they're level on points, it goes to goal difference or points difference. So you can just say, what do you want to use if they're level on points? And I've said bounce rate. Now, because it knows what information to look for, because it's got the data here, a lot of this has been populated. So when that's populated, you don't necessarily use this data. I wouldn't worry too much about it. You've got this information anyway, and it's all going to come out in the report. But this should give you a list of all of your pages and then page views and so on. Just have a look at everything's here and it looks correct. That would then also be a second kind of confirmation that this data here is right and you've got everything in the right place. It's just that you can see what's going on, so you can spot anything untoward that's happening. Once you've done that, you can then go across to the page list, because what we want to do here is we want to create a list of pages, but unique pages, so that we've only got each page once. So what I've done is I've created a little system which I use in some of the other spreadsheets to bring the data over. So these green cells here are bringing over all the new pages, because what's going to happen is this next process, the next step I'm going to show you, is quite a lengthy process in order to be able to assign all of these pages. And you don't want to have to do this every time you get new data. So you can leave this in here, but when you do bring in new data, what will happen is if it finds new pages, it'll list them as new, it'll add them onto the bottom, you can add them on, and then you can assign those, so you can update it without having to reassign everything every time, which will become an absolute pain. So because these are green, what you can do here is you can either come here, because that's green, it says new, and select the page, but there are quite a few. So what's better here is actually just to scroll down all of these green ones until you get to the bottom where they stop being green. There we go. And they turn white. So we go down to the bottom of the green section. So essentially highlighting all those green cells, right click, copy, click back on the yellow and just scroll down, and it jumps back to the top, and then right click on the top cell and paste values. So now what happens is paste all of those and we have no new ones. So now we've got a list of all the unique pages. Now, what I would suggest doing is, because these aren't necessarily in any, these are in order from most visited downwards, but not quite, because they've combined some of the pages. What I would do is sort this alphabetically, because now all of a sudden what happens from a website point of view is, me, for example, I get all the blog posts at the beginning together, so it's easier to assign them. So then you can go through any pages you want to ignore. So in other words, they're old pages and no longer on the website, or it doesn't make sense because it's not a web page or whatever, it's some kind of weird thing, then just select ignore, or else categorize it. Or else if you want to leave it as uncategorized, you want to include it in the graphs, but you want to have it as uncategorized, then don't click ignore and don't select a category. And that will then, you can go through and assign all of these pages. Now, because that's going to take a while, I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to jump across to the other spreadsheet where I've already done that. And you can see I've assigned them to the different categories. And because all the blog posts at the beginning, it was relatively easy to do. And then like here, when it was about our cookies, I left that blank because I didn't want to categorize it, but I didn't want to ignore it. Let's see if I can find one of the ones that was ignored. Here we go. This thing it was like, well, that's not really a page. That's something funny going on there. So I've selected ignore, and I've ignored that. And I've gone through and I've done that. And yes, that is a bit of a painstaking task. Yes, it does take a while, but this is why I've remade the spreadsheet, because now once you've done it, you can leave it. If you go back to your raw data and you were to select all of that raw data again and clear it and bring new raw data in and paste values to put that in, then you'd come back here. And what this would do is it would show you what new ones were, but it would keep all the other ones on here. So you don't need to get rid of them. Anything on here that's not being used will just simply not producing results and won't hassle the scorers, so to speak. So yeah, it'll show you new ones on you, so you can actually leave this list once you've done it once. You don't need to do it again. The last thing is the report, and the report's the bit that you want to get out. This is what you want to be able to see. So when we click on the report, we can see here all the different categories I've assigned, how many points each one's earned based on what I've assigned points to, how many page views, how many unique page views, how much time in minutes is spent on each of these categories, and how many entrances we had. We can also see the bounce rate and the percentage exit. Now, these ones, as you can see, based on points, are all based in order, because that's the league table. So it's gone down in order from best down to worst. So you can see where people are spending their time, what's going on, and you can see where it differs here, particularly in the bounce rate and the percentage exit. That's why I've done all those colors. If you scroll down, we've got three what I think look like very colorful DVDs, but essentially what they are is I haven't put any of the information on here because it just overwhelms the project. But what I've done is I've tried to make them as drastically different colors as possible, and you can see down below here what each of them are based on the category and what color it is. So what this does is it helps you to see how many pages you've got. So for example, here in this pink section, the prime range, I've got quite a few pages dedicated to that, but not as many views and not as much time spent on to justify that volume of pages, especially here with the green. Look at that massive number of pages. There's all the blog posts, but not a lot of time spent on there in comparison to the rest of the website. So this will help you to see which areas you got more pages, which areas maybe you've got fewer pages, but people are spending more time. Maybe that's an indication of what they want to see. and things that you've got loads of pages where they're not spending as much time. Maybe that's an indication of things they don't necessarily want to see. So you can have a look and compare those three. As I said, I've done them in bright colors so that it stands out. If you scroll further down, there's another one there for points. That's the points that it earned on the league tables. And here you've got a few different things, average seconds per view, average views per page, average unique views per page. Because remember, these aren't pages, these are categories. So these may have numerous pages within them. So that report automatically generates, and that's the report that I found quite useful for my website, and I hope that it helps you. All you need to do is keep this page up to date, which means bringing in your raw data periodically, overwriting the raw data, seeing if there are any new pages, copying them, pasting values across the page name, then assigning them to a category. If you want to sort by the count, for example, you can't sort by the count because it's locked cells. What you can do is you can then just come here, you can right click, copy, you can go to the sorter column, paste values, and then you can sort by that column as a temporary thing, and then just clear that once you're done. Now, what the count means is essentially from this raw data, I may have had all sorts of different links pointing to my home page. So how many of these, like for example, there's one for the home page, there's one for the home page. The reason why they're different is because this one may have been just using a backslash. This one may have been backslash with a question mark with a query string or something. So you have different pages. What would appear as different pages in the Google Analytics is actually the same page on your website. So that's why it appears multiple times. And all that's doing is counting up how many times it appears. So that's not really relevant to any of the searches here. What's important is to get this page up to date with all the relevant, with all the unique pages, and then seeing that report. And that data, as I said, comes from the raw data, and it's all set up from this one here initially. So I hope that that all makes sense. It's quite a confusing spreadsheet to work. It needs to be done in a specific way, but I've made it as simple as I can so that it's as easy as possible. And once you've done that task of assigning all the pages names, you don't have to redo it again. And I hope that's helpful to you and your business. And I wish you all the very best with monitoring your website. Thank you very much and goodbye.